I survived 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore on the new 1.17 snapshot. If you guys have been living in a cave for the past 5 months, then you won't know about the Minecraft snapshot that allows you to play the beta version of the 1.17 Cliffs and Cave update. And I really wanted to learn all about it and try to survive 100 days in Hardcore, so that's exactly what I did. This update was so much fun and it was super cool exploring all of the new stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy my 100-day journey through it. If you do, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I recently hit 50,000 subscribers, which was my goal for the end of 2021. And I was able to hit that before March, which has now prompted me to push myself to try and hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So please, if you do see that you aren't subscribed, please change that. It's completely free and you can always change your mind at a later point. And finally, before we get into this video, I just want to give a huge thank you again to MC Pro Hosting for sponsoring this video. A bunch of you guys have shown me the cool 100 days worlds that you have made with your friends on their servers. So if you do ever want to get a server set up for you to do this with your friends, feel free to do so. The link is in the description. If you use my code, you get 20% off your order. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get right into it. So when I spawned in, I was unfortunately in a jungle, which was most definitely not where I wanted to spawn, but I wasn't going to let that stop me from taking on this world. So I grabbed some wood, made myself a pickaxe and headed into the Stone Age. Since this wooden pickaxe was incredibly slow, after grabbing some stone, nighttime was already on its way. And the last thing that I wanted to be in was a dark jungle with no food. But thankfully, I was able to find myself some cows, and also my first mob, which was an easy kill. However, I can't really say that about the second one. So after taking on my first near-death experience, I cooked up my recent kill and then started my adventure through the night again. And in the process, somehow I was able to find myself a jungle temple and a nether ruin at the same time. I looted the nether ruin and got myself a free golden apple and then explored the horribly rigged jungle temple. But thankfully, not long after leaving, I was able to find an escape from the jungle, and was also able to get some more sheep to make a bed as the sun of day 2 was already starting to rise. And then on day 2, I killed some animals and found my first cave, which gave me my first interaction with the newly textured ores. But after a bit more exploration, I needed to cook up a little bit more food and call it a night. On day 3, I had my first sight of the new cave types, and then found a shipwreck, which gave me some pretty cool stuff. I then found a ravine which was able to give me a bunch of iron. And I then found a really cool spot that would be perfect for my first house project. But luckily in the distance I was able to spot a village church. After looking for 3 days I finally found one. So I picked myself a house, claimed it for the foreseeable future, and spent my first night in a brand new home. On day 5 I found 2 cows that the villagers had trapped. So I stole some of the villagers' wheat and started the breeding process. I then grabbed some coal to cook up my ores from the mining trip so that I could make some more armor and tools, but then found out the hard way exactly what Curse of Binding does to you. So with my new mixed armor set, I set off back into the mines and hit a mine shaft. I was excited to see some of the new caves and cliffs in this snapshot, and the first thing I found out about this update was how easy it now is to find diamonds. But then the main moment happened. I found a huge cave that I was super excited to explore. I then found even more diamonds being protected by a spider. and then continued to realize the sheer size of this cave. It was crazy. But I managed to find some more diamonds, but then a whole wave of zombies came at me, so I decided to leave and not risk my life. But luckily I was able to find myself a bunch more, and then I decided to resurface. Surprisingly, I came out right at my village. But it was nighttime, so it was time to sleep. With my new diamonds, I made myself a full set of armor, but my golden leggings were still stuck to my thighs. So I had a big IQ idea and went to break them from damage to magma blocks in a local ocean. However, in the process, I was distracted by a treasure hunt. But in the end, I was able to get them off my legs and set myself free. I then finished off day 8 with the epic realization that the huge cave I had explored was directly underneath the village I was occupying. So it was on that day I started my mission to create a huge underground civilization away from the rest of the world in the depths of the caves. But unfortunately this was not going to be an easy task. These caves were so dark and so far from the surface. So I spent a long time planting down torches and sectioning off this place to stop mobs from spawning and attacking me. So on day 11, I went to the surface and mined a bunch of trees so I could get a bunch of saplings and start my own tree farm down below. I then started mining out an area where I could lay down some dirt and start planting the trees. But I did run out of dirt, so I had to go back up to the surface again to grab more. But then I could finally finish off my area. On day 13, I realized my XP levels were starting to stack up, so I started a mission to try and find myself a lava pool above the surface, because in my whole mining trip, I didn't find a single one, but also in my whole adventure above ground, I didn't find one either, so I had to resort back to the caves. But after a long time of mining, I was able to get myself 4 lava buckets, which was just enough for an enchantment table. So I grabbed all the obsidian I needed and then headed home to sleep through the night of day 16. On day 17, I needed to kill a few cows to get some leather so that I could actually make a book to make the enchantment table. But then I could finally do it and I was able to enchant my tools. And then I continued my efforts to make this cave my own civilization, and to do that I needed to make it a little bit smaller so it wasn't as hard to manage, and to do that I also needed to build a huge wall separating all the different parts of the cave, and this took a long time, but by the end of day 19 it was finally done. But thankfully on day 20 I decided to try again to look for some lava pools, and came across a portal ruin. This was the closest thing that I would get to one, so I grabbed as much obsidian as I could. And since it took so long, by the time I was done, it was already night time, so I headed home to skip the night of day 20. Then on day 21, I made a sugarcane farm. And started to make my first ever water elevator that I have made in Minecraft. I wanted to make one of these because it takes me nearly a whole minute to climb the ladders to the surface, just because I'm so deep in the world. But after a little bit of building and watching a tutorial, I found out I needed soul sand, and for that I had to go into the nether. Not really prepared, I leaped into the portal, and my spawn was not great, but I was able to grab some soul sand, and I even got a little bit of XP. But I was not at all ready for a full mission, so headed home with what I had. But then unfortunately, I found out that for a water elevator, you need the whole thing to be complete with water source blocks. So it took me a long time to keep getting the buckets and keep filling it up, but eventually I had it finished. And once that was done, my challenge to make myself 100% sustainable from the cave down below continued, and I needed cows for that. So I made a drop chute where I could throw cows down into a water pool and transport them into my cave, which still didn't have a name. But nonetheless, I bone mealed some seeds, bred my cows, and then finished off day 27 by smoothing out my area a little bit. I spent the whole of day 28 killing cows so that I could get leather. This was something that I needed for books, so that I could get bookshelves to upgrade my enchanting area, and by day 29 I had done just that. I was able to then enchant my stuff at a way higher level, so with my new speedy pickaxe I could extend my sugarcane farm up the walls of my cave. And then I decided it was time to re-enter the nether for some XP. In the process, I ran into a bastion, which was yet again something I was 100% not ready for. So I took it very carefully, but decided it was probably for the best to just leave and not take any risks when unprepared. So I took on one last challenge, which was pretty easy, killing a ghast, and then headed home. On day 35, I didn't do much at all apart from hunt down some cows. I needed a bunch of leather for bookshelves so that I could fully enchant my armor and tools at the enchantment table. And killing the cows went well into the night of day 35, and on day 36, I returned home with so much leather. The trip was so worth it. And then I was able to finally level 30 enchant all of my armor. I then spent the next couple of days blocking off the cave. This cave is huge, and I wanted to make it feel a little bit more like home. And the super tall roof was making that hard, so I wanted to corner off each part of the cave, and I think it turned out really well. I spent a little bit more time making myself a chest room since I was still using the 3 double chests from the start of the world. So I dug out an area and started to make it look nice, and I did have to spend some more time gathering resources up top, but I then headed down and spiced it up. I really like how it looked with the vines, and I think it brought a really cool green environmental look to the cave, and it was definitely worth it in the end. Before I could head back to the nether to try and find myself a fortress to get some wither skeleton skulls, I wanted to get some villagers down into my cave to start breeding. I still didn't have any villagers down there, so this was a high priority. So I spent a few days pushing them down the cave and to try and get them in a hole, and somehow the villagers found out about my water elevator, which made this process very hard because they just kept coming back up. But in the end, I was able to get a few of them down there and trap them in. So at the end of day 48, I lived up to my promise, and once they were all trapped in, I headed into the nether to try and locate a fortress and get some wither skeleton skulls. And since I'm stupid and I didn't learn my lesson from my other worlds, I didn't take looting in on my sword before doing this, and I headed in with a regular sword, which would make this take so much longer. But after doing a little bit of exploring and grabbing XP, I ran into a fortress, and then started the long and tedious task of finding wither skeletons and waiting for 3 of them to drop a skull. Finally, after my first 1 hour and 45 minutes of real time, I got one. I almost gave up and headed back into the overworld, but I'm so glad I stuck it out. I then got a second one, which was so relieving. And I almost actually died at one point. But by day 62, I had all of the skulls I needed, and at that point, I was well and truly bored and annoyed with the nether, so I made myself a new portal and got the hell home. Well, no. I was well over 10,000 blocks away from my house, so I had to spend even longer traveling back. I had no idea what I was in for, so I just had to keep sleeping through the nights. But finally, on day 67, I made it back in one piece with the skulls I needed. On day 68, I really just did nothing apart from breeding. On day 69, I went mining for diamonds to replace my armor that had been broken in the nether, and this was when I realized that the snapshot had actually been updated again. This changed some of the textures and names of the blocks, which was a bit confusing at first. But I was able to make some more armor and enchant it again. And I was also able to make myself a spyglass. This was basically a telescope, and since I couldn't use Optifine in the snapshot, this was so helpful now that I could zoom in on things again. And then finally, on day 71, once I was prepared and ready, I started the Wither boss fight. This seemed a lot easier than usual, and I think it was because the deep slate block down in the depths of the world is a lot tougher than stone, so the Wither had a much harder time getting to me. But I was able to kill him and get myself a nether star, which I turned into a beacon. But I realized on day 72, since I spent so long in the nether, that time was slipping away from me, and I still had so much that I wanted to do in this world. So on day 72, I went searching for a pillager outpost so that I could start a raid. And on the journey, I found an innocent village that was perfect for this. I then stumbled across an outpost, and was able to get myself Bad Omen, which was exactly what I needed. So I ran into the village and started the raid, which I had no idea was going to be the hardest raid I had ever done. These pillagers were absolutely relentless, and I almost died on many occasions. I had to battle all through the night of day 72. But I finally got my hands on a Totem of Undying at one point, which I almost died with straight away. But that did not stop me, and I continued to battle all through the raid, and seriously, I almost died so many times. But in the end, I was finally able to kill the last guy, and I had officially completed my first and only raid of this world. So I headed home, and on day 75, since sadly I lost 2 iron golems to that raid, I made myself 2 at the base in memory of them. And then I went to sleep to finish off day 75. On day 76, I started refreshing the villagers' trades. I wanted to try and get a mending book, but after trying for a whole day, I couldn't get one. So I gave up, and then started on a new task, which was something I had actually wanted to do in this world since the start. And that was to make an underground villagers for my villagers to roam around in and live normally, but just underground in the cave with me. And by day 82, this dream had become a reality. And I was super happy with how the village turned out underground. It's still got a lot of work to do, but it looks great. On day 83, I again ventured back up to the surface because I needed to get some chickens in the cave so that I could get feathers for arrows for when I was ready to take on the Ender Dragon. And I was able to do just that. I had 2 of them trapped in a hole within minutes. But then on day 84, I unfortunately realized what I did the day before was pointless. I also then made a really cool sword by combining 2 together, and all of these arrows and this really cool sword got me so hyped for the end. So I went into the nether to farm some endermen so that I could get ender pearls to turn them into eyes of ender and then track down the portal. I killed a lot of endermen and I was able to leave the nether with a bunch of e-pearls. I made myself the eyes of ender that I needed and some fireworks for when I got into the end. And then on day 87, I was ready to get myself into that portal, so I started the mission to hunt it down. The Eyes of Ender were leading into the ocean, and after a while of following them in my boat, one of the eyes went down, which meant I was above the portal. And thanks to silverfishes, I dug down and was able to find myself the portal. And it was no longer time for messing around, so I put the eyes in the portal and was ready to go in. I leapt into the portal and was ready to take on the end. Luckily, even though it was 1 AM, my bow shots were on point, and I was able to take out so many of the towers in such a short amount of time. I was doing so much damage to the dragon, and I didn't even realize how much I had done in such a short period of time. At one point, he launched me into the air, and the nerves got the better of me, but thanks to the Totem of Undying, I was able to prevail. And not long after, I was able to kill him. I grabbed all of the XP and made a bolt for the End City portal. And luckily when I went in, the end city was super close to the portal. But unfortunately, there was no elytra inside. And actually, this was the case with all of the end cities I found. But after leaving the third one, in the distance, I finally spotted an end city boat, so I rushed up to try and get myself an elytra. And after a long time, there it was. I almost forgot, but I also tried to grab the dragon head, but unfortunately it was lost to the void and I was not risking going for it. So I flew all the way back and looked into the void to appreciate its beauty. Finally, I grabbed the dragon egg and I was ready then to go home. Day 92 started with me making an ender chest, so that I could withdraw some of the items I deposited in the end cities whilst on my end adventure. And after that, I made a floor display for the dragon egg to make sure that it wasn't just sat in a chest doing nothing after the adventure that I went on for it. And on day 93, I continued my not yet finished underground villager farm. I wanted the whole area that they were living in to have farms, grass and trees, but I had no way of getting grass down there at the moment. So after laying down all of the dirt, I tried to get a silk touch shovel. But after being unsuccessful twice, I had ran out of lapis, so I had to go mining. This took a long time because for some reason I just couldn't find lapis. I had a feeling it was due to the new caves, but lapis could not be found anyway. So I was able to grab a little bit and then I started to head up with what I had. And on the way up to the surface, I actually ran into some more, which was perfect. So upon return, I was ready to waste all of my XP to get a silk touch. And after a few tools were enchanted, I was able to get a silk touch shovel. I was so happy. And with a short deadline, I quickly went up to the surface and got some grass. I picked up 16 pieces and headed down to put the grass in all places I had dirt. This included the cow farm, the tree farm, and the new villager house. I then spent the next few days with the villagers, trading and breeding them. On day 99, I did a little bit of farming. And when I returned to their house to make them breed, on day 99, they were in bed, which gave me the signal that this would be the last time I slept in this video. And when I woke up, it was officially day 100. So I gave them one last batch of potatoes and went outside. So that was it, 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore on the new 1.17 snapshot. I won't lie, this was a little bit harder than I was expecting due to that one raid. That one raid was nearly all over for me. That was nearly the whole series gone. I nearly died there and that could have been it, but I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. That is it. I survived 100 days. The next video I'm going to be making is the 500 days in my original hardcore world. So if you guys are excited for that, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you are watching at this point in the video, be sure to go and comment Iron Golem just randomly to confuse everybody else in the video. If you guys do want to play on this world, the seed and the world download will be in the description. So if you do want to go and download this world, or just start on the same seed as me and see what you can make in the same world, feel free to do so. All of that stuff is in the description. And honestly, just a huge thank you for all of the support on these videos over the last couple of weeks. Genuinely, my channel was dead at the start of last month, so the support is super overwhelming. So I hope you guys really did enjoy today's video, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.